What's up, guys? Another mystery and makeup with Bailey Serene. I hope I'm calling her name right. The link to her channel is below, so go check her out and let's enjoy.
The Night Stalker. Richard was one of 5 children, and his father was a former police officer. The whole family relocated to Texas. So his father would often physically abuse his wife and his children. At the age of 2, Richard was struck in the head with like a falling piece of furniture. And then when he was 5 years old, he was struck again in the head with a swing at school, and he was knocked unconscious. From that point on, he suffered from seizures. Richard's home life was pretty toxic. He would spend a lot of his time at his cousin's house. He was much older, and he had been an Army Green Beret combat veteran who served in the Vietnam War. Now, this cousin was all sorts of effed up. He even had photos of him posing with a severed head belonging to a woman that he had raped and killed. And Richard is like, whoa, that's cool. Because
yeah, he was learning from the best.
Because he's a kid. Miguel would end up teaching Richard some of the skills he had learned, including how to kill people.
Oh boy.
Good for 10-year-olds to know.
Why?
On May 4th, 1973, Richard was at Miguel's home when Miguel and his wife got into an argument, and Miguel ended up shooting his wife in the face. Now, Richard was there, so he witnesses Miguel shooting. Now, Miguel would end up getting arrested and taken into prison, but he was found not guilty by reasons of insanity, and he would just spend 4 years in the state mental hospital.
Yeah, right. The eyes, like, I'm like, yeah.
After the shooting, he really just didn't want to go home.
And that type of stuff messes up with your kid's head. Like, parents, watch out where you let your kids go and live.
Because it was not a good place to be. So he ends up moving in with his sister. This is just one big hot mess of a family. His sister's husband, his name was Roberto. Roberto over here was a peeping Tom. So Roberto would take Richard with him at night to peep in windows and watch these women undress or like go to the bathroom. It just kind of...
And sometimes we wonder how the kids turned out, because this child was just set up for failure.
Kind of seems like for Richard it was just one bad place to another bad place to another bad place, you know? Richard began associating his fantasies with violence. While he was still at school, he also worked part-time at a Holiday Inn. So one night when he was working, just used his pass key to get into a guest hotel room. Now, it was a couple, and it was just the wife in there by herself. So Richard let himself into the room, and he attempted to rape this woman. The charges ended up being dropped when the couple refused to testify. Because of this, Richard did end up losing his job at the hotel, as he should. So then Richard ends up dropping out of high school in the 9th grade. It's a little unclear what he did from this time all the way up to the age of 22. But that's when Richard decided that he was going to move from Texas to California permanently. He went to San Francisco first, and he was staying in the Tenderloin district. April 10th, 1984. Richard is staying at this hotel. It's where he ends up murdering a 9-year-old girl in the basement of the hotel. It went unsolved for many, many years, and it wasn't until 2009 when they were able to get a DNA match linking him to this horrible murder. He ends up going down south to Los Angeles. So on June 28th, 1984, a 79-year-old woman, her name was Jenny, she was found brutally murdered in her apartment. Her throat was...
God damn it, 79 years old. Like, dude, from a kid to... He's just looking for weaker people, so it's easier at the time. Like, he's practicing with them. That's horrible.
Slashed so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. They knew whoever had done this had gone through the window, and they had a fingerprint, but no suspects. On March 17th, 1985, Richard had attacked a 22-year-old woman, and her name was Maria. Richard ends up like ambushing her, and he pulls out his handgun and he shoots her in the face.
Wow.
She ends up surviving. Richard thought like she was dead, so he like goes inside of the home, and inside of the house was her roommate, 34-year-old woman named Dale. She had heard the gunshots, and she had ducked behind a counter in the kitchen, and she was just kind of like hiding there. She ends up raising her head over the counter where she's hiding fighting, and that's when Richard sees her and shoots her in the face, killing her. Within the same hour, Richard had come across a lady named Veronica. Richard wanted to steal her car.
That was a busy night for Richard.
So he could get away. So Richard ends up pulling her out of her vehicle, and he ends up shooting her twice, and then he ran. He wanted to steal her car, but he ran on foot after he shot her.
Right.
So then on March 27th, 1985, Richard broke into a home. It's now 2 a.m. in the morning. When he gets in there, he sees 64-year-old Vincent is sleeping in his room. Next to Vincent was his 44-year-old wife. Her name was Mazine. Richard just shoots Vincent. This wakes up his wife. Richard hops on top of her and he beats her. She tells him that there's some jewelry over there. Just take whatever you want. She is actually able to get her hands out of the bonds. She knows there's a shotgun underneath her bed. And she gets up, gets under the bed. She grabs the shotgun. Richard comes into the room. She points it at him, pulls the trigger, click.
Oh
it
boy.
wasn't loaded.
And the way Bailey says it again, click, it wasn't loaded. Damn. Oh boy.
This infuriates Richard. And
the murderer says, how dare you try to shoot me? He's upset about it.
And he then proceeds to shoot her 3 times. So
how
then
dare
Richard
you?
ends up grabbing a knife from the kitchen, gouges both of her eyes
What?
out of her face, and he puts them in a jewelry box, and he takes the jewelry box, just takes it.
Yeah.
So when Richard is leaving the scene, he actually ends up leaving his footprints in the flower beds, which are outside the home. Also, police had found bullets at the scene, which had matched to those found at previous attacks. This is the moment when police realized that a serial killer was at large. May 14th, 1985, he enters the home of 66-year-old Bill and his...
Okay, I don't know what his thought process is, but he definitely, he probably stalks these people for a little while and then finds out, oh, this person is old, they are not really going to be able to defend themselves because he didn't barge into the house of a bodybuilder or something.
56-year-old disabled wife, Lillian, I know, it's awful. Bill was in his bedroom, and Richard enters the room. They kind of have a little confrontation. When he was reaching for the gun, that's when Richard shot him in the face. He enters Lillian's room, and he finds her there. He bound her up, he raped her, then...
How do you rape an old, disabled person? How do you even get an erection? Ugh.
He ransacked the home. May 29th. All of these took place in 1985. Richard steals a Mercedes. He drives out to the home of 83-year-old Maybelle and her 81-year-old sister, Florence. So Richard breaks into their home and he finds a hammer. He runs into Florence first, so he beat her with the hammer. And then he runs into Mabel. He ends up beating her, and he gets electrical cords, and he gives both women electric shock. Then he grabs a lipstick he sees, and he draws a pentagram on poor Mabel's thigh, as well as one of the walls in the bedroom. Oh, it keeps going.
This guy is sick. I'm are we done yet?
Then, July 7th, Richard broke into the home of 61-year-old Joyce. She was a...
Okay, we can establish that he has a type. He's up for older people, because he does not want any confrontation, don't disturb, let's do this.
On her living room couch, Richard beat her to death and kicked her in the head, which ended up leaving a clear shoe print. And then after this attack, Richard decided that he needed a better tool to commit these crimes he was doing. So he goes and he buys a machete. I feel like that would be a red flag. You're buying a machete? Okay, yeah, let me just take your information really quick. So he drives out to a home of 66-year-old Lila and her 68-year-old husband, Max. Bursts into the couple's bedroom, kills both of them with the machete. He then shoots him in the head. So that same night, July 20th at 4 a.m., Richard breaks into another home. Richard shot the husband, and then he bound and raped the wife. Then
this guy has feelings for older people. And he loves them being helpless. That's a crazy, sad fact.
8-year-old son came walking in. Richard sees the 8-year-old.
Oh,
he bounds him up and he drags the 8-year-old around the house. He demanded that he, quote, swear to Satan that he was not hiding any money from him. He left the child bound in the home. Moving on to August 8th, Richard steals another car and he chose the home of 27-year-old Sakina and her 31-year-old husband, Elias. He shoots and kills Elias, then he handcuffs Sakina while forcing her to reveal the locations of like the family jewelry, and Richard repeatedly demanded that she, quote, swear on Satan that she would not scream during his assaults.
Wow.
Police keep finding these victims and they are linking them all together. Then a televised press conference had taken place. They ended up giving Richard the name the Night Stalker. They tell viewers to lock their doors, lock their windows.
Wait, let's take a moment to appreciate the look. What she did with the eyes is so pretty.
Because someone is coming and it could be any of you. LA detectives were like off that they had this media conference about it. They knew that Richard was going to like make a run for it. I mean, they were right. Richard was indeed watching. Richard saw this and knew that everyone was onto him. Richard then takes his sneakers that were linked to the crimes, drives up to San Francisco, and he drops his sneaker off of the Golden Gate Bridge into the water. And then for some reason, he goes back on August 24th. He drives a little bit outside the Los Angeles area, and he is kind of lurking outside. Inside was a 13-year-old boy named James. At this point, everybody had heard about this Night Stalker. This James boy, he hears like footsteps. He wakes up his parent, making sure that whoever's outside is like hearing them. This freaks Richard out and he gets into a stolen car. So James, he runs outside and he noted the color, the make and model of the car, the stolen vehicle that Richard was driving in. They found it on August 28th. They were able to get like a fingerprint from the rear view mirror. He just missed like one little fingerprint. Police are excited about this and they're able to get a positive ID on the fingerprint. This fingerprint belongs to someone named Richard Ramirez. They see that he's...
I mean, the press conference actually helped because if not, people would not have been this alert.
25-year-old drifter from Texas, and he had a long rap sheet. So they do another media conference. We know who you are, everyone else will too, and there will be no place for you to hide. So then on August 31st, Richard gets off of the bus and he's walking and he looks over and he sees like a newspaper wrap. Every single newspaper had his picture on the front. It sends him into a full-blown panic, tries to run across the freeway, stops a car, it's a woman, he tries to carjack her. Other people nearby who have slowed down, they prevent him from carjacking this woman. He takes off and he hops over like several fences, attempting 2 more carjackings. Now, this is the good part, because he ends up in East LA. This tries to stop one of the cars driving down the street. Luckily, there were people outside, so they see this happening and they're like, no. And they attack Richard, holding him down until police came. So Richard is arrested and put in prison and is waiting for his court date. So at his first court appearance, Richard had carved a pentagram on his hand. He just yells, "Hail Satan!" Then, August 14th, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors was found shot to death in her apartment.
Oh boy.
The jury was terrified. They were all...
Wait, do you guys remember Richard's uncles that were teaching him the ropes? We should check them out.
Thinking it was Richard. And now everyone, especially the jury, was really afraid. Later on, it was determined that Richard was actually not responsible for this lady's death. Now, this is the part that extra... Now, the media was covering this story. They were showing Richard's photo everywhere. Richard had fans. He was getting hundreds of letters. One of the ladies who was a big fan, her name was Doreen. They were in love. During his trial, women were just flocking to the courtroom to get a glimpse of him. You know, fangirl. She ends up being replaced by another woman. Her name is Cindy. And Cindy was infatuated, obsessed with Richard. How she got on the jury, I don't know. He thought with her on his side, he could have a chance of getting a hung jury. So he is making sure to give her eye contact. September 30th, 1989, Richard was convicted of all charges. 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to die in California's gas chamber. Richard was waiting for his execution date.
That actually sounds more like it. Like, I don't know, the gas chamber thing is just satisfying to me.
His health just fell apart.
Why?
And he ended up passing away
No.
at the age of 53. He had been sitting on death row for more than 23 years. Very heavy story, I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
It's very sad. He was the legit boogeyman. People that a lot of us fear. You know, someone breaking into your home and just, that is a lot of our nightmares. I hope you have a wonderful day today. You make good choices, be better, and get better idols.
The crazy part is, why did he wait for so long? Why was he just left to be breathing free air for like 20 years, more than 20 years, after all he did? Yeah. Okay, guys, see you guys in the next one. Join the Storytime squad and leave a like. That helps a ton. Goodbye.